Good morning, everyone. Jana Martins here, and our 22nd episode of Reboot Your Tech Mind, a place for creating positive habits. In this episode, Andrew guides us through the delicate art of saying no to your boss and learn strategy to set your boundaries respectfully while maintaining professional relationships. So join us to discover how to protect your time and energy without compromising your career growth. So we're getting together every Tuesday morning, 7:45 a.m. for a really quick practical tip to kickstart your day in the tech world. Please make sure to check out our previous episodes where we cover a range of topics, including time management, goal setting, stress management, productivity hacks, breathing techniques, mindfulness, and so on. So anyway, without any further delays, passing on to Andrew to introduce himself, please.
Great. Thanks, Yana. And great to be here again. And even though it's early in the morning, good to start the day with some kind of tips and tricks and life hacks, I guess, we can use in our careers and our working lives. So, excellent to be here. My name's Andrew McGee. I am a senior director at Red Hat, leading technical sales teams. I've been in IT and tech for quite a long time, as you can see here. So along the way, leading teams and picking up little bits and pieces of knowledge and experience across my career, and happy to share that with anyone today or in the future or at our tech walking events that Yana runs. Happy to share kind of my experiences and knowledge with anyone if starting out in the tech industry. So with that out of the way, let's get on to today's topic, which is mildly controversial or not, but how to say no to your boss. Where this topic comes from is a book that I've read and can recommend to anyone who hasn't read it by Greg McGowan. It's called Essentialism. And what the book is about is how to do less. But doing less in order to have a greater impact, right? To really find your goals and focus your energies and narrow down on the big rocks, the things that are really going to move the needle, and try and jettison all the stuff that doesn't move the needle as much as possible, right? It may be impossible to get rid of everything. But so this is a really good book, and we only touch on a very small part of it today, but this is where this topic comes from. So with that, let's go to the next slide. Whoops. So why say no to begin with, right? Why do we want to say no, and would we even dare to say no to our boss or somebody in a senior position? Or maybe it might be your partner, or maybe it might be somebody you respect, right?
It's scary to say no to your partner, yeah?
Yeah, exactly, right? Which boss are we talking about here? And the whole point of it is, if you're a person who says yes to everyone and everything, you're probably going to be the person on the left in this screen. Right, all your energy is pulled in a lot of different directions, and you do a lot of stuff, and maybe you complete most of it or much of it. But how much energy and how well and to what level and what impact are those activities and tasks going to have? Whereas if you're somebody who can really narrow down your focus and really decide on what are your true goals, what are the things that are really going to move the needle for you in your life and your career, and focus and double down on those things and jettison the noise. It's that old 80-20 rule, like where 80% of it is noise and only 20% of it is the signal, the real deal. You can be the person on the right. So that's the aspiration, right? And that's what we want to aspire to achieve. And this is where saying no to some things, to some of that noise comes into it. And this is the benefit. So why is it hard to say no? This is an interesting question, because saying no is almost a courageous act in a certain point. It's hard to say no because we're worried about missing out on something. Maybe something's a good opportunity to get involved in, and we think, this could be good for us. And again, it's not saying no to the important things, but it's saying no to the things that, on the surface might seem like a good idea, but once you look into it, it's not a good use of your time. It's hard to say no because we don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to be a troublemaker or be seen as someone who's uncooperative. It's hard to say no because we don't want to disappoint people that we respect and people we like, to a family member or something it could be as well. It's hard to say no because generally most people are wired that they want to be helpful. Most people want to get along with each other and, and be seen as helpful people in society and in the workplace. So we just want to say yes to everyone and please people. The last point's an interesting one. And when you say no, you need to be very comfortable with the fact that you're trading your popularity for respect. And it's a trade-off, right? So saying no may not make you the most popular person, but it will earn you respect in the longer run. And we'll touch on a little bit of how that may work in the future. So, but it is hard to say no, and there's no doubt about it. You need to practice and you need to get good at it. But if you do that, you'll find that you get the time back, and you can really concentrate on the things that give you quality outputs to your tasks and activities. So how to say no gracefully. So there's a few different tips and techniques that we can use, and some of you probably already do this, or you've figured out ways to kind of tell people no in your own life and in your own workplace. But generally, the first point is separate the decision from the relationship. So it's easy to get a little bit confused when somebody asks us to do something. We can confuse the request with our relationship with the person that's asking us. So we really need to separate that. So it's just looking at the request logically, like what is this thing that somebody's asking me to do? Even though this person might be my boss, or they might be my partner, or they could be somebody, a family member, where I have all different types of relationships with those people. We need to separate that relationship from what they're asking us to do. If it's something easy and then we can do it quickly, maybe we say yes because, of the relationship. But generally, you want to analyze what are they asking me for. The second point is choosing no doesn't have to mean saying no. So people who have mastered the art of saying no often never use the word no, right? You can talk, and we'll have a look at some examples in a minute, but you can say tell somebody that you can't help them, or you don't want to help them, or at this point in time you can't help them, without actually saying no. And that takes a little bit of the awkwardness out of the response as well. Focusing on the trade-off is always a good thing to do when you think about saying no. So focus on, if I say yes to this request, what am I going to miss out on? Like, what do I have to drop? Like, everybody has a limited amount of bandwidth. Everybody has a limited amount of time. When you put it on the scales and you balance it up in your mind, if I say yes to this request, it means I'm not going to be able to do this thing, which means I might miss a deadline, which means, it has ramifications down the track. You really need to trade that off. And in some cases, you can have that discussion with the person making the request about the trade-off, because the trade-off may be in their interest or may not be in their interest. And we'll look at that again in a minute. The last point there is sometimes a clear no, a short, sharp no, and this is why, is a lot better than a vague non-committal. Sometimes we have the tendency, we want to avoid conflict, or we don't want to disappoint somebody. So we may be non-committal. Oh, let me have a look at it. I'll get back to you, etc. That's going to be far worse in a week or 2 weeks' time when you have to go back to that person and then say no later, than if you had just said no straight away. And as hard as it seems, ripping the Band-Aid off quickly is usually a lot better idea. And putting that discussion on the table straight up is a lot better idea than stringing somebody along.
I definitely prefer than someone say no straight away, instead of, kind of contemplating, and then a few days later you find out that this person not going to do it.
Yep.
Like 100% would much rather someone say like, no, I don't have time, not going to do it. Where you still have this hope, maybe this person will do it. And then a few days later, like, no.
Well, and the other thing with that too is that you may delay going to somebody else and asking them for help because you think this person may still help you. And then you find out later and then it becomes much harder and it just exasperates the problem.
There's a
Right?
loop.
Yeah, exactly right. And there's almost like a disappointment curve. Initially the person asking you may be a little bit disappointed. Oh, I thought you were going to say yes, and you've just said no. But that will kind of quickly taper off, and and then you can have a discussion about it, why you say no or why you can't do it, etc. So let's have a look at some examples. And this is just 3, but there's many others. So this is not an exhaustive list, right? It's just to give a little bit of an idea of the types of responses and what we can do and how do we say no to people, including our boss. The first one's a bit funny, but it's like the awkward pause, right? Somebody comes and asks you something, just stop and think about it before you even respond and before you answer it. It's hard sometimes. Our human instinct or initial reaction is to say, yeah, sure, I can help. I want to help. I want to be a helpful person. But if you just stop and think before autopilot responding, you will start to, wonder, hang on, if I say yes to this, what does that actually mean? Like, what am I going to give up here? How is that going to take my time and energy away from the things that I've got on my plate right now? And that pause can make the other person send a signal to them to say, well, hang on, maybe this person can't do what I'm asking for. Why are they thinking about it for so long? And if you really want to, test how long you can pause for, the other person may already come to the conclusion that, oh, this isn't going to work, or you're not going to be able to do it before you even have to say no. So you may not even have to say it. But that's an interesting one. Just stop and think before you give somebody your response.
I definitely done that before. Works like magic. You just wait,
right.
and the person cancel the request themselves because they click in their mind and thinking, oh, maybe I shouldn't ask it, maybe it's too far, and they take it back before you even say anything.
Yeah, that's right. It is can be magic sometimes, right? And like I said, it's a bit courageous. You've got to actually wait, and it can get a little bit awkward the longer you kind of pause for, but test it out and see how it works. The soft no. So this is the one where you say no, but you kind of do it in a positive type of way, right? Like, so in this example, I'm neck deep in this project right now, but I should have time in a few weeks. If that works, let me know if that works for you, or something like that, right? So you kind of you're saying you can do it maybe later. You're happy to help that person, but you can't do it right now. And so then the person most likely, well, if they can wait, they might go and find somebody else to do this. And that's just kind of diffusing some of the, some of the awkwardness of the kind of response. And then the third one here we have is deprioritizing. So this is a classic one, right? I'm happy to help with this deal, but I need to pause on the other tasks or the activities that I have and push those things out to a later time. Is that okay? Right? And so you're asking somebody, I can do this, but it means I'm going to have to drop that. Again, we don't have unlimited bandwidth. We don't have unlimited time, and taking on too much means we might do a poor job, particularly for our boss who might be asking us to do something. So we need to kind of let that person know, well, if I do this, I need to drop that something else or pause it or whatever. What's the impact of that going to be? And in the last example there, if Bob is okay with me not working on his project this week, I can help you. Can you check with Bob? And this is a classic one because often people will come to you and you might be working for multiple different stakeholders. And one stakeholder wants you to work for them. The other stakeholder wants you to work for them. They've just made that your problem. Now you're like, oh, which person do I disappoint, right? Which person am I going to drop and which person am I going to prioritize? And suddenly they've created a problem for you, a dilemma. Put that dilemma back on the person who's asking. Say to that person who's asking you, well, I could help you out, but then I can't help this person out. Can you go and check with that person if that's okay? And then you've just shifted the problem back to them, right? And now it's their problem. They're like, whoa, hang on, what? You mean I've got to go and talk to this other person and ask him to pause his project? It becomes a different dynamic. Now that can, depending on the person and depending on the situation, you may choose to, do that a little bit more forcefully or not. But that's always a good one to shift the problem and the onus back onto the person who's requesting. All right. With that, I think that's our 3 examples we were going to do today. So I'd love to hear if anyone has any comments or anything about it, or funny stories. I'm sure there's plenty. Always open to getting kind of feedback and hearing about that.
Yeah, I've definitely can say that I did use that awkward pose a few times, and I think it's also need to be careful. I know, like especially early in my career, and then if I would be in a job that I don't really like like some sort of hospitality role or something, when I say no, I would make people feel bad so much that they would never come and ask me anything else. So, I think there's a border here as well. So sometimes you just create this atmosphere that no one end up coming and actually asking anything from you. Could be really good for some type of jobs, and that you're just temporary in this job, and you just need to quickly work here for a few months and go. But definitely will kill the team dynamic. But it's definitely an option.
Well, there is some theories, and we don't have time today, but like there is some theories about, do you want to be a generalist known as a jack of all trades or a Jill of all trades type of person that does everything? Or do you want to be known for doing just a few things but really well? Right. So
and people don't know
again, it's trading the popularity.
Yes, it's kind of like people now only go to you for those things, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so thank you guys for joining us, saying hi. James is saying it's always preferable to be upfront and transparent. If you're hesitant to say no, remember that they are human too. If you build a good rapport and trust with them, they will understand as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for joining me this morning. Guys, if you have questions to Andrew, you can always connect. Please watch our previous episodes. You can find a lot of useful information. And I'll see you on Wednesday afternoon at 5:30 for our weekly discussions. And hopefully we'll see everyone in Albert Park on the 10th of August as well. Thank you again, and see you tomorrow at 5:30.
Thanks, everybody.